Hello, good morning. Thanks for joining us for a special broadcast of Just a Sec, where we give you a bunch of attitudes and things that you can think are funny or ridiculous and then mad tweet at us about on your preferred social media platform. I'm going to do introductions. First to my right is Dr. Drea London. She runs Global Incident Readiness and Response here at Sentinel One. She is a proud Orlandonian, and she's a fun amuseaholic. Drea's best friends are princesses, wizards, and a mouse that spends almost every day with them. See a pest control expert. My name is Dakota. I spend most of my time researching China's government capabilities and its improvements to its offensive pipeline. When I'm not doing research, I'm constantly playing the theme song of the Great British Bake Show in my head like it's elevator music. On the far end over here, we've got JAGs. JAGs has a long history of tracking cyber espionage groups and targeted attacks and analyzing malware, followed by writing long, dense reports that nobody reads. More recently, as you can tell with his earlier comments, he's become obsessed with AI, and he just won't shut up about it. And the right here in the jacket and the Viore sweater with the sick haka is Steve. He's got experience in threat work that covers both government and private sector. And his passions are judging other people's taste in music and eating sweet treats.
The sweetest of treats. Is that Viore?
My other one was. I swapped it out.
That's what it out. Anyways, okay, so our main topic for today is it says $100 million paychecks. However, that's actually the low ball. I saw reporting from, I want to say, MIT Technology Review that one AI researcher at a machine lab in Boston was offered $1 billion over a 4-year period.
You have to say it like that.
To work at Meta. $1 billion. Just like so 4-year payout period for this one particular AI researcher. There has been a ton of press written around what Meta is willing to offer and pay out. Other companies are paying out similar amounts of cash. What I think is notable, though, is that researcher who got offered the $1 billion over 4 years did not take it.
Yeah.
He stayed in his job.
Wasn't it like the guy from one of the co-founders of like Thinking Machines, though?
Yeah.
Like you
Exactly.
actually, you are trying to take somebody who has a bet that is, if they, it's the folks, some of the co-founders for OpenAI who left and are trying to do like, I think, model fine tuning and some like interesting things to make it more productized. So I don't think that it's totally outlandish to say, I can top $1 billion, right, as a co-founder on that. But it's still super interesting, right? Like $100 million payouts for even like AI engineers in general is, I mean, look, I'm bought in on it. What do you?
I'd say like I'm a very mixed mind on this. One is, I mean, just at an individual level, if you can go get 100 billion or $1 billion, like go do that.
Yeah.
Like all power to the individual. I just love that aspect. I don't think it's like sustainable. Like there's just there has to be a moment in time. Like you just can't run that forever. And I think that's gonna be the interesting part is like, okay, now what?
You don't think this is a $10 trillion market?
Yeah, I just don't see that happening.
That's the expectation, right? Like the VCs,
Right.
This is a $10 trillion market. If you want to put $1 billion in for a key player, like it makes sense to them. I will also say for anybody who's actually in that position, Sid Triverdi, who's a VC and a friend, has been offering on LinkedIn to help negotiate these contracts for people. So if you need somebody, like basically we're at NFL agents dynamics, he will help negotiate your $100 million Meta contract and hopefully add an early termination clause in case they change their mind in 6 months.
I love that. I like this topic, though, as a point on management. I think the NFL players is a really good example where it's like, yeah, you can hire one person who is stellar in their current environment, but I just don't know how well productivity and what they can deliver transfers across organizations and cultures, because I cannot imagine that the workplace culture at Meta, having never worked there, is the same as a startup environment, 30 people who, are you already crossing thresholds of $1 billion valuations?
Is the expectation that you should be essentially melting down all of the existing organizational stuff anyways, right? Like, I'm not saying the companies can do it, right? I'm sure Google, you can see that like Google's kind of fighting and struggling and trying to, you have these giant cultures. They're basically the IBMs of, whatever time we're in. And now they want to keep acting like startups, but they're 15-year companies. There's 70 layers of bureaucracy, middle managers, and nonsense. How on earth are you really supposed to do that, except with AI?
Yeah.
Well, and think about the insider threat perspective, right? So if you can assume that your employees can be bought for 100 million, a billion, whatever it may be, what are they taking with them? And like, how do you observe and monitor the left?
How much of this is like the effects of sort of some of this antitrust, not overzealous regulation? I'm not saying the regulation is bad in any way, but you're keeping them from Meta can't just come in and be like, yo, we're going to buy this company for 10 billion. It's 10 people, like, come on through. Instead, they've found the loophole, quote unquote. You walk in and you, like, I think it happened with, what was it, Cursor or one of these, where like, yeah, they didn't, you were buying the company, but somebody came in and basically paid out all the talent to leave and pivot.
I mean, I'll editorialize on current U.S. antitrust or trust dynamics, and I say that I'm not sure that they need a loophole in order to acquire talent of a certain company without hiring that company. I mean, we've seen examples of regulatory bodies saying you may buy this company if you do not do the following things, and then the company who bought the acquiree does the following things, and there's
Going to do about it.
there's no enforcement action. So, yeah, but that's U.S. policy and foreign policy questions.
So we're all
That's where my big ass comes from. I know like Drea and I are big sport ball people. So like, let's salary cap this. I want to see it ESPN style. Like
Absolutely not.
I want to see the ticker.
Stand with Schwarberger,
Yeah, I
stand with
wanna see,
Harper.
like,
Absolutely not.
Dakota
Salary.
Cary contract standoff, being recruited to another company. Like, let's just do it. Let's hard pivot.
AI draft party.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
where's the draft? Let's do it.
Who's coming out this year? Who's graduating?
Does it all make sense in this mentality in the valley of like A players want to work with A players type shit, where you go, I will pay 250 million for this one person, assuming that like if you could go and hire Jeff Dean away from Google for $1 billion, knowing that like every hardcore computer engineer who thinks they have a bright future ahead of them wants to work with Jeff Dean. Like, to what extent is that genuinely a recruitment boon? And how much of that is just like the mythos of the valley of, pretending those are the dynamics that I have to play out?
I think it's real. Like, especially in a space, I mean, if we're being like just super honest, the AI expertise space is fairly small. And I think I'm very conflicted on this entire topic, but one thing I do generally love about it is like, I'll give Meta a lot of credit. It's just numbers. If you look at their portfolio, they're just doing for people what they've always done with tech and business. I think to your earlier point, I think that's pretty brilliant. You can pay somebody $100 million and you recoup that in 30 seconds of a 1% stock increase. I don't think that's the worst thing in the world.
I'm actually happy to see that. I mean, to be honest, like I like to be really forthright about like salary negotiations and stuff like that. Like, I think that secrecy mostly goes against the talent pool, and it benefits certain companies and businesses that it should. I think particularly when it comes to the kind of talent we're used to seeing in the Valley, where like you do have folks that make outsized changes to the industry. I always thought it was messed up that we were looking at $1 trillion companies and you had engineers who, yeah, sure, you've got a nice RSU bump, kid, but like no one's looking at you and going, you are critical to this effort, therefore you too will have, 0.2% ownership of whatever. Like you see companies like Amazon and Apple and so on go to like $1 trillion valuations. You don't see the majority of the people contributing to it moving up in like a multiplier equivalent to that same order of magnitude. So it does feel like a change in sort of the right direction, at least from the talent perspective.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. Should we move on to our 8 subtopics?
Let's go. Let's do it.
I remember.
So I think we're going to get a timer up. The first one is the widespread exploitation of on-prem SharePoint servers. We have the speaker down as Steve. So Steve, do you want to tell us why you should run SharePoint on-prem and then connect it to the internet?
Yeah, I think short answer is you shouldn't. I think that's one of the big takeaways. But I think this recent SharePoint exploitation is really, I think it's worth talking about for like 3 like serious reasons. One is, as an industry, we don't want to secure on-prem SharePoint servers, but the reality is thousands and thousands and thousands of organizations have those. Like, so we don't get to wish that away, and we keep learning that lesson. Second thing I think, and I think from a threat perspective, one thing I think is really interesting is this isn't a new CVE that led to this. But back to the like chaining CVEs together, and we keep being surprised by that as industry, and it keeps happening. And I don't know why we're still surprised. And the third part is, and we saw it like just so clearly, we all talk about it as people that talk about threats. There's this thing of you can have a vulnerability, that doesn't mean a threat, and then you can say exploitation, and then you see the massive ripple effects through the entire ecosystem, which you absolutely saw here. So it was early like, well, we have a Chinese group that's doing this, and that lasted like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And now you've got dozens of groups going after it, and I just think that's a really important thing to look at.
I have some pretty strong thoughts on this one. Not all of them very nice to Microsoft in general, but so I think I'm concerned that we're going to see the same thing play out that we saw with Hafnium. And really, like, Hafnium is a misnomer, right? What we're talking about is the proxy logon vulnerabilities of like a few years ago, I think 2021. And what was interesting about that from a business standpoint was Microsoft did what they do very well, and they turned the PR crisis into an upsell opportunity. And what they took, they went to all these folks and said, oh yeah, you know, running an on-prem server like this is just a really terrible idea. You really should be just moving into the cloud. So they upsold people away from like a crisis of their own making that they didn't manage. And I think there's a similar expectation happening with this SharePoint thing where you go, yeah, this is a terrible idea, folks. I don't know why you guys are running this on-prem. We have it on the cloud now. And you just kind of try to upsell folks into not a solution, but essentially just moving you away from the problem or to the next one, right?
Yeah, I think that's spot on. Well, we're on to the next topic, and Drea, we want to hear from you what the best thing at PyCat is. Thanks for putting your name down for that one.
Oh, yeah. I think it's all the swag that I get from my kids.
The swag for the kids?
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago, I was flying home, and I had those big light-up swords, and I was just carrying it all over the airport with these, sticking it in the, would only fit in the back part of the seat, and people would just look at me. But yeah, my kids, they know. And I come home from these conferences, I come in with a bunch of crap that they don't need. Goodbye.
Okay, I'll be looking for the light up swords. My wife has sent me on a task to find blank notebooks. She is a big collector of potential, empty, storage vases, containers, and notebooks. Notebooks are big. You could do anything in a notebook, and we just don't have enough of it.
Potential.
Lots of potential.
So is this indicative that I don't want to disparage the venue that we're in, right? But
let's go ahead and do it.
Let's power through it. I'll be running out of here as soon as this is done. But is there much by way of like content and value to Black Hat as a conference itself versus a trade show, the way that like we got used to with RSA, but RSA used to be a real conference and then it became a sales thing, and now Black Hat, we're kind of getting there. DEF CON is now essentially a convention, like it looks like CES.
Yeah.
So like what is this now, really?
I haven't actually gone to the conference in years.
I go when I speak.
Yeah.
People come for stuff like this. Thanks for being here. Thank you, guys.
That's a long way to fly for watching us talk in microphones.
I'm going to cue myself up on the Hafnium research I did. So I mean, it kind of
Shameless plug.
shameless plug.
Yeah.
I have no influence over the schedule here. Put out a report, last week about some of the corporate structure and individuals behind part of what has been lumped into Hafnium, and that included the exploited vulnerabilities you mentioned earlier. And I think one of the takeaways there, at least the one that I think is the most interesting, is that there are a number of individuals and companies working under something that's been clustered as a particular, threat actor, who may or may not have relationships with one another, and their structured relationship with the ultimate consumer of that, the Shanghai State Security Bureau, is very different depending on where you fit in that ecosystem and who you are.
Can we talk about
Also, I love this topic as like an old school China watcher, and like Dakota, you've heard me rant about this over and over again. There's just two things that just keep jumping out. One is policy matters, and I think that's happening. Stuff's a perfect example. Like this show on floor, it's all tech, it's whiz bang. It's like who's the most advanced, but this is not about advanced. This is about policy and how governments work, and we just shoot right by that. And again, we learn a lesson the hard way. Second thing, and I like to tout your own report right in front of you, make it super awkward. I love, again, like when you talk about China, it's always scope and scale, always. That's what makes them so different. And that report really bears that out. This isn't a person that found a way to access a document. This is institutional actions. And I think that's so notable for this topic.
Yeah, it's one of those places we can learn from them.
I was just gonna say, because and we talked about this when you were putting the report out. It's important to note that it is Hafnium in particular, because folks are confused with the proxy logon vulnerability stuff. But Hafnium was like the hardcore, super special APT that was using that vuln when nobody was supposed to have it, and then that spreads out to like 20 different groups, and we lose sight of them. Which is even more to their credit, right? Like they're just turned to smoke. And interestingly, if you look at the Sharepoint vulnerability, we had a similar finding where there's a no-shell group we talk about, which is the earliest. It's before anybody else saw the exploitation. We had no toolkit. They were leveraging the vuln before anybody else had it. And then the minute people start to latch on, they vanish, and you get 4 of the B team and then ransomware and whatever. It's like you're hiding in the smoke. But once again, you go, how did they have this vuln when they did?
Absolutely. All right, we're at time for Steve to talk about Love After Lockup.
Here we go.
A wonder television show. Is that streaming? Who's it streaming on?
TV.
WeTV. On a
WeTV
WeTV
sponsors.
Love After Lockup. Steve Stone. What the heck is it?
How many people have watched this here?
I can't be. Yeah, there's one. Nobody else. Like literally nobody else. Okay, so we talked about Love Island, the last one.
Tell us.
And if you want to go to the deep end, like the absolute deep end of the pool for love shows, it is Love After Lockup. Premise is people date inmates, and then they fall in love, and like hilarity ensues. Hilarity is not the right word. Chaos ensues. You want to see people get married in a prison parking lot. The show, like it's great. It is bad.
Is this like the fans of serial killers, right? Like, like Ted Bundy had like a bunch of folks that would write them, and for months, years.
Did you watch? There was like a whole series, and I forget her name. The girl that killed her mom, the boyfriend killed her mom, like the Munchausen by proxy thing.
Yeah.
They did like a 5. Yeah. They did like a 5-episode series, and I totally binged it like once.
I think that was Love Before Lockup.
Well, there's Love After Lockup and Love During Lockup. The other thing that's super great about this show is it's almost like South Park or Hard Knocks, where they film it very quickly and turn it. You'll see people on the show, and they will basically commit a crime on the show and get cut. And then next week, it's like it never happened. They are not on the show anymore. Whole character lines go away. Like you're seeing bad decisions play out live. It's amazing.
I'm absolutely.
I'm now interested.
Like spot your ass.
Okay, we're on to Salesforce compromises. The key line or the node that I have here is sassy. I don't know why. I'm unfamiliar with these compromises. Drea?
Yeah. I think this is Steve's topic, but I have a contributing.
Yeah, I mean, and again, I'll keep
It's
ranting.
Steve's topic because he's the only one who filled out the document.
It's not the document.
She filled out.
You've got a number of intrusions that are effectively just logins to Salesforce instances, and I'm a broken record this episode, but like we keep looking past SaaS. We keep looking past, if you want top regulated and sensitive data, it's Salesforce, it's Workday. We don't ever talk about it that way as they used to.
Yeah, and it's using one of those portals. I think it's called a trusted portal or something. It's like the login portal. Very similar. It's like social engineering techniques that we've seen from other threat actors like the COM as of lately, and all of the Octo versions as well. So, I think one of the things about that's interesting is it's very difficult to identify because it looks completely, legit.
You're a professional podcaster. Look at that segue into the comm sector. So do you want to tell us about the arrest of...
Really? You're going to try to steal the time here this way? You're going to mess with the thing?
Oh, they missed... Come on, the background.
Do it.
It's the background.
I can't stop you.
It's like a horn in the middle of my talk. So a couple days after our last broadcast, we talked a little bit about the comm last month, and a couple days later, 4 individuals were arrested. One of them, Joubert, who has been arrested several times already, is fine.
He's going to learn this time.
He's an adult now.
Oh.
So he probably will be there a little longer, but that's what happens, right? These kids, they don't get very long sentences. They just get introduced to, some sort of detention center or whatever. They become more and more connected to organized crime, and they come out and they're worse than they were when they got there. And then we see these, rinse and repeat scenarios. So yeah, it's just a real big win for everybody that's been focused on this threat actor for the last several years. There's still, hundreds of them in the group remaining, but this was one that I know, especially Allison Nixon, who's I think the industry standard or industry expert on this threat actor. That's pretty wide knowledge. Yeah, she called me that morning and was like super thrilled. And she's been following a couple of those guys specifically for a very, very long time. So big win for the industry. Really happy about that.
It's a complex topic. Like not to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory. Like I'm glad that some of these folks are getting picked up, and they should be, right? Like you need to put consequences around this without a doubt. But following Allison Nixon's line of reasoning, especially with the younger ones, like there is something self-defeating about taking these folks who have all kinds of social issues and whatnot and are committing crimes but are technically savvy, and then throwing them into prison environments where they become more intertwined with organized crime and like, you know, white supremacy groups, extremist groups, etc. And then you come out being somebody who is technically savvy, not necessarily able to get a real job, and now very well connected to like organized crime.
Do we only have that regret because this technical savvy somehow increases their social value through like a capitalist lens? Like there are a lot of people who go into prison and jail. I'm just saying, there are a lot of people who go into prison and jail for committing crimes who have social issues
with Chinese characteristics.
We don't have the same remorse for those individuals going into prison because they're not somehow otherwise could have been productive.
It's an interesting capitalist mediated indictment of the prison system, but it's also
Thank you for matching my energy.
It is a lack of choices, though. To your point, right? Like what we're seeing now is also these folks have a bunch of run-ins when they're younger, and we don't have any other mechanism by which to say, "All right, kid, like." Let's clean up your act because, like, you could have a bright future ahead of you, but this one ends it, you know, in a pretty bad place.
Absolutely. It ends up in love after lockup.
And segue into everyone's favorite backpack. Oh my! They asked me to do the backpack Dora the Explorer song. I'm not going to do that. You get it. It's 2 words. Backpack.
Yeah, I have a favorite backpack.
Go first.
Too.
Issey Miyake. It's like she's a Japanese designer, and it's like these little tiny like plastic triangles. Yeah. I'm obsessed.
Huh.
No.
I'm a Toomey guy.
Toomey guy, really?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like, I think for folks who end up spending way too much money, right? There's a tendency to go try to buy like ultra designer things. They don't have the right pockets. They don't have the right like dividers or whatnot. You always end up back at Toomey. So if you do want to buy like a really nice one time, just go get a Toomey bag.
What about you, Dakota?
I buy what Costco carries. I'm a big Costco.
So carries like
anything I get 3% on. I think I'm currently rocking a Rains backpack. It's got a little fold over top. It's got a nice mesh bottom. There's no pockets on the inside. It's absolutely it's chaos. It's a chaos bag, no structure. But it's comfortable and it's waterproof. So can't complain.
Oh, Dakota, I'm the exact opposite. Oh,
We have 34 seconds on there.
No, we're moving on to Russia uses ISP for bad.
Oh, wow.
I don't even have the summary for that topic. So
Okay. You want to do it?
yeah. I mean, this I think is what, if I had to look at like the last 30 days, this is probably, I think, the most interesting intrusion event that's been covered. And it's effectively, and we're back to policy, we're back to big government, but they're using ISPs and connection points to actually push malware. Like,
For
embassies, for high value personnel, right? It's old school espionage with a very like high end technical flair. And I think one, like that, good luck defending against that. Like, how do you defend against an ISP and valid connections? 2, I think we're very, we're all pretty U.S. centric. You know, some of us come out of the government. We've done our time in those spaces. We want to act like this is like Russia being super bad. But if you look at like, this is kind of what big governments do. This is what make big governments super advanced actors. And so I think like hat off to them, like they're leveraging what they can, and it's brilliant.
I mean, it's not Russia being super bad necessarily as much as like you got caught doing what almost everybody is for sure doing, right? If you control your space and you have this kind of tech, you're telling me that you're not targeting every embassy that's in your, like, it's just bad. You're just bad at your job if you're not. But what's interesting is, you know, we discussed this on the 3 buddy problem last week, and Kostin, bless his heart, was like, well, who in an embassy would ever use like non-VPN or like not, you know, your own connection? Like, why are you even using a Russian ISP? You go, I think that's thinking about an embassy as a very cohesive entity, or rather instead of like folks like, oh yeah, you know, I've got this other thing. I brought my laptop, BYOD, like whatever. And the level of control that you're talking about for what is opportunistic, being able to get on your personal laptop or your kid's phone or whatever is it just doesn't work that way.
Well, and there's this super interesting, like, inverse situation. Like, I think Kostax asks a valid question, but for anybody that's, like, worked in that space,
the opposite's usually true. The people that you would want to target are not coming out of embassy space because it reveals who they are and what they're doing.
Right.
So it becomes you almost by definition of the kind of operator you are, you're making yourself more vulnerable so you can be hidden and then you just get scooped up.
Think of it as like recruitment targets, right? Like that's really the best. Yeah, you might be getting some info out of there, but I bet you have better ways to spy on that embassy. The more interesting thing is who in here is essentially a wonderful recruitment target in Moscow, all place.
Yeah. Well, at this point, we'll open it up to questions if anybody has anything that they'd like to add or ask us. If not, that's okay. It was wonderful seeing all of them. That's why I like Grace in person. The crowd is expanded behind you if you've been sitting. And if you're joining us on a live stream or a podcast, God bless. I hope you can hear us backwards.
You got Warwick over here openly trolling me with his T-shirt. Just openly trolling.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
Folks, all right, questions? Anyone? Speak now. Thank you all for coming and listening.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And we'll see you.
Thanks, everybody.
Happy hunting.